bird dog, and the dog was pretty obsessed with looking at birds on the horizon and really couldn't connect to his owner.
Right.
And we didn't really get into it too much with him, but maybe you could explain. You do a lot of pushing with this dog.
Yeah, the dog's focus is on the horizon, so we got to bring him down to center mass, you know, to be attracted to the center of the circle, which we as humans define. So the gentleman would take the dog. He thought the dog needed to run and get a lot of energy out of his system that way, but that's just frittering away energy. And he would go to a pond, and there'd be geese, and the dog went into the pond, and it was 3 hours. He couldn't get the dog back.
That's amazing.
You know, so that kind of play is frustrating from a dog's point of view. They never get to ground. So with a dog like this, we got to ground him. I mean, with all dogs, we have to ground them. But that became what was really interesting is how well this dog could do.
Oh, he
in that
was. Yeah,
system.
he really looked beautiful.
He was doing very, very well. So the very energy that was pulling him apart, away from the owner, could be rechanneled and bond them together.
So let's watch Birdie. I think his name was. We'll see
Bernie,
what you're-
Bernie, yes.
Oh, Bernie. It sounded a lot like Birdie.
Not interested in people so much.
So the dog is looking every which way, but he's got a strong hunger drive. Animal consciousness is the confluence of hunger and balance. If hunger outweighs balance, like a ratio,
If I make enough resistance,
then the dog
sooner or
is
later,
having a positive
he's gotta
experience.
go into this emergency reserve, i.e. the battery, the emotional.
Now, we said that energy works by law, which means if there's resistance in the expression of energy, well, there's got to be some kind
I want
of
to go really fast.
derivative product, some kind of byproduct, and that's what we know of as stress.
And the dog is releasing the dog's. This is releasing the dog's stress.
Yeah, now normally this dog's stress goes towards
Left
geese
hand is
and
pushing
some
off.
intense vibration on the horizon. So I'm using my left hand as a socket for that dog to push into and overpower resistance. And if I make enough resistance, little by little, he's got to dig down into the battery and let go the deeper layers.
Now, isn't this indeed what catching a goose feels like?
Yeah, so
So
it
this
does.
is more satisfying than chasing a goose for 3 hours. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
right, because he never gets to a tangible reality, a material consequence. He just stays totally frustrated.
So if the owner was to do this, then the owner is satisfying the dog's desire.
Yes. And, you know, so now what I'm doing is stalking him to trigger his stress reserves, which geese trigger. The eyes of the geese trigger it, but they vibrate so intensely that they'll conduct it. And a human being, he's never learned that kind of success with a human. So he avoids the human, looking to the horizon for the path of least resistance.
Right, he's looking everywhere but you.
Right. This actually is the template for various breed traits. What path of resistance makes sense to them, feels right to them, according to a law of nature, principle of conductivity. Now, he knows I'm there.
Right, it doesn't look like it, but he
Oh,
does.
yeah, he's catching me out of the peripheral vision. Now, he looked at me, so I start to vibrate. I'm going side to side, I'm inflating, I'm letting him experience that he is controlling, he's pushing me around by showing me straightforward expression of his energy. At first I made contact with the pushing, I gave him tremendous success, and now I'm burdening him to trigger his battery. Oh yeah, he's got an itch.
Another law of nature, right, playing out.
Yeah, so they then, you know, they can't deal with the stress, and all of a sudden
Something itches.
something.
This is another avoidance behavior, really.
Exactly,
It's not
yeah.
just that he has an itch.
No, he has no itch.
Right, he's avoiding.
Although I could be triggering the memory of an itch as a technique for him to avoid, but. So if he shows me some straightforward behavior,
You mean just by looking at
just
you?
by looking at me, whoa, I have that has big impact. Which is how we as human beings gain success, a successful, confident view of the world. So I'm coming in kind of intensely, but vibrating. I got food in my hand, keeping him directed.
That's great. Now, for him to sustain focus to a human for that long is
That's
revolutionary for him.
Yes, right. He's never sustained focus. And now the gentleman's playing with him in the house and doing all stuff in the house, but he didn't notice that, yeah, my dog will give me contact in the house, but not outside the house. They're two totally different emotional contexts from the dog's point of view. There's no prey indoors ever. Therefore, it's easier for him to plug into the owner as his ground. But outside, where there's anything resonant of prey energy, forget it.
So we won't be able to see it on this tape, but he was really able to.
Well, then I changed that into healing. I don't know if we have
We
that.
don't have footage of that, but he
Okay.
was doing beautiful healing with you. He just
Right.
was really able to sustain contact. He was aligning himself with you.
Dogs were barking, and he was channeling all that so-called distraction. That was just energy. I was the ground. Therefore, all that energy was going through his body, plugging into me. I'm bouncing it back to him and getting him to left and right and this and that, what we call healing, which really is healing. And he's learning, we're playing ping pong. The energy's going to me, going back to him, going to me, going back to him. And that back and forth is new energy. So, for example, you put yourself on a swing and you go back and forth. Well, that's new energy every swing. Yeah, you're doing the same thing over and over, but it is new energy. You are feeling, by the way, weightless. You go into a state of suspension after a while. We can get into that too, what I mean by heart. You go back and forth, back and forth. So I'm doing the healing. Eventually the dog gets to a state of total suspension where he then, his